What if the greatest archaeological discovery in human history has been sitting in plain sight for thousands of years, buried beneath ice, hidden beneath rock, or simply mistaken for an ordinary mountain? Imagine a single discovery so extraordinary that it could reshape history books, ignite fierce scientific debate, and transform how millions understand one of the world's oldest stories. For centuries, explorers, archaeologists, adventurers, and believers have searched for one object that has become almost mythical: Noah's Arkansas. But here's the mystery that keeps people coming back. Despite hundreds of expeditions, satellite images, eyewitness accounts, and decades of investigation, no one has produced evidence that convinces everyone. Every few years, a new discovery makes headlines. A strange wooden structure. An unusual rock formation. Ancient timbers emerging from melting glaciers. Excitement explodes across the internet. Then skepticism follows just as quickly. So, is Noah's Ark one of history's greatest unsolved archaeological mysteries? Is it waiting to be discovered beneath the snow-covered slopes of Mount Ararat? Or has the search itself become a story that tells us more about humanity than about the Ark itself? Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating mysteries ever pursued, a journey through ancient texts, remarkable expeditions, scientific investigations, controversial discoveries, and the enduring question that refuses to disappear. The story begins thousands of years ago. According to the book of Genesis, humanity had become overwhelmed by violence and corruption. God decided to send a great flood to cleanse the earth, but chose one righteous man, Noah, to preserve life. Noah was instructed to build an enormous vessel unlike anything the ancient world had ever seen. The Bible describes precise dimensions: 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Depending on the exact length of a cubit, the ark would have stretched roughly 450 feet, making it one of the largest wooden vessels ever described in ancient literature. Inside, Noah was commanded to bring his family and representatives of every kind of land animal to survive the coming catastrophe. Rain fell. The waters rose. Civilization disappeared beneath an endless ocean. Months later, the floodwaters receded, and the ark eventually came to rest upon the mountains of Ararat. That single phrase has inspired centuries of searching. Interestingly, Genesis doesn't actually specify Mount Ararat. Instead, it refers to the mountains of Ararat, which in ancient times described a broader kingdom known as Urartu, located across parts of modern-day eastern Turkey, Armenia, and nearby regions. Over time, however, one mountain came to dominate the imagination of the world: Mount Ararat. Standing more than 16,800 feet above sea level, this massive dormant volcano towers above eastern Turkey. Snow blankets its upper slopes year-round, while glaciers hide much of its summit. If Noah's Ark survived anywhere, many believe this mountain is the strongest candidate. But why? Partly because of tradition. For centuries, Armenian historians, medieval travelers, and local communities passed down stories that the ark rested high upon the mountain. Ancient pilgrims described mysterious wooden remains hidden within the ice. Some claimed locals avoided climbing too high out of reverence. These traditions persisted long before modern archaeology even existed. Then came the explorers. Beginning in the 19th century, European expeditions ventured toward Mount Ararat with growing excitement. Some returned claiming they had seen unusual wooden structures frozen inside glaciers. Others reported enormous beams protruding from the ice. Still others claimed local shepherds knew exactly where the ark rested but refused to reveal its location. The problem? Almost none of these claims were independently verified. Many reports relied on second-hand testimony. Photographs were missing. Coordinates were vague. Witnesses sometimes changed their stories over time. Yet every account added another layer to the legend. One of the most famous stories emerged during the First World War. According to a widely repeated account, a Russian pilot allegedly spotted a gigantic wooden ship embedded within an icy lake near Mount Ararat while flying reconnaissance missions. The Russian government supposedly organized an expedition. The team allegedly measured the vessel, photographed it, and documented the findings. Then came the Russian Revolution. The records supposedly vanished forever. It's an incredible story. There's just one problem. No surviving evidence confirms that the expedition ever happened. Historians have searched Russian archives extensively. No official reports have been found. Many researchers now believe the story evolved through repeated retellings rather than documented history. Still, it remains one of the most enduring Ark legends ever told. By the mid-20th century, advances in aviation transformed the search. Pilots began photographing Mount Ararat from the air. Then satellites entered the picture. In 1949, U.S. military aerial photographs captured a mysterious feature near the mountain's northwest plateau. Analysts noticed an unusual object partially concealed beneath snow and ice. It became known simply as the Ararat anomaly. Even today, the Ararat anomaly continues to fuel speculation. From certain angles, the object appears elongated. Some enthusiasts believe it resembles the outline of a massive ship. Others argue it is nothing more than natural rock emerging through glacial ice. Numerous satellite studies have attempted to settle the question. Unfortunately, snow cover, shifting glaciers, and limited visibility make definitive conclusions extremely difficult. No expedition has been able to excavate the anomaly thoroughly. Political restrictions, harsh weather, military security zones, and dangerous climbing conditions have repeatedly limited investigations. As a result, the mystery survives. Then another discovery captured worldwide attention. In the late 1950s, Turkish Air Force Captain İlhan Durupinar photographed an unusual boat-shaped geological formation approximately 18 miles south of Mount Ararat. Today it is known as the Durupinar site. Unlike the Ararat anomaly, this formation is visible from the ground. It measures roughly 500 feet in length, remarkably similar to the biblical dimensions of Noah's Ark. Researchers immediately became fascinated. Could this be the Ark? Several expeditions investigated the location over subsequent decades. Some researchers reported radar readings suggesting internal structures. Others claimed to identify symmetrical patterns beneath the surface. Rock samples, soil analyses, and magnetic surveys generated enormous excitement. Supporters argued the formation represented the fossilized remains of the Ark, preserved beneath mudflows after the flood. Books were written. Television documentaries followed. Millions became convinced. But mainstream geologists reached a different conclusion. Most concluded the formation resulted from natural geological processes. They argued the surrounding rocks, sediment layers, and structural characteristics matched ordinary erosion and tectonic activity. Several independent investigations failed to find convincing evidence of preserved wood or human construction. The debate continues today. What makes the Durupinar site fascinating is not merely whether it is the Arkansas. It illustrates how differently people interpret the same evidence. One observer sees extraordinary design. Another sees ordinary geology. The same photographs inspire entirely different conclusions. That's the challenge of archaeology. Evidence rarely speaks for itself. Interpretation matters. Meanwhile, another remarkable claim emerged in 2010. A team associated with Noah's Ark Ministries International announced they had entered wooden chambers high on Mount Ararat. They released dramatic photographs showing timber walls, wooden beams, compartments, and what appeared to be ancient construction. Laboratory testing reportedly dated some wood to approximately 4,800 years old. For believers, this seemed like the breakthrough everyone had been waiting for. International headlines followed almost immediately. Yet skepticism appeared just as quickly. Many archaeologists questioned the chain of custody surrounding the wood samples. Others criticized the lack of transparent documentation. Independent experts were not permitted unrestricted access to verify the findings. Some investigators suggested the wooden chambers may have originated from abandoned historical structures rather than a prehistoric vessel. Years later, the claim remains controversial. No broad scientific consensus has accepted it as proof of Noah's Arkansas. Why is finding the Ark so extraordinarily difficult? One reason is geography. Mount Ararat is enormous. Its glaciers constantly move. Rockslides reshape entire slopes. Earthquakes alter landscapes. Seasonal snow can bury enormous features for decades before revealing them again. If a wooden vessel ever rested there thousands of years ago, natural forces would have transformed or destroyed much of it. Another reason involves wood itself. Even under favorable conditions, untreated wood decomposes over centuries. Exposure to moisture, microorganisms, temperature fluctuations, and geological pressure gradually destroys organic material. Preservation requires exceptionally unusual circumstances. Ice can preserve wood remarkably well. So can extremely dry deserts. But maintaining preservation for several thousand years on an active volcanic mountain presents extraordinary challenges. Then comes the flood itself. Was it global? Regional? Symbolic? This question changes everything. Many biblical scholars interpret Genesis as describing a worldwide flood covering every mountain on Earth. Others argue the account reflects a massive regional flood experienced by ancient civilizations in Mesopotamia. Some view the narrative primarily as theological literature rather than literal history. Interestingly, flood stories exist across cultures worldwide. Ancient Mesopotamian literature tells of Utnapishtim surviving a catastrophic flood in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Atrahasis epic contains another remarkably similar account. Greek mythology speaks of Deucalion. Hindu traditions describe Manu surviving a great flood. Numerous indigenous cultures preserve flood legends passed through generations. Do these stories preserve memories of real ancient flooding events? Or do they represent recurring themes that emerged independently across civilizations? Researchers continue debating the answer. Modern geology has revealed that Earth has indeed experienced catastrophic floods throughout history. Glacial lakes have burst. Massive tsunamis have reshaped coastlines. Rivers have overflowed on unimaginable scales. At the end of the last ice age, enormous meltwater floods carved landscapes across North America. Around the Black Sea, some researchers propose that rising sea levels may have inundated vast inhabited regions thousands of years ago. These discoveries demonstrate that ancient people certainly witnessed devastating floods capable of inspiring powerful traditions. Whether any of these events corresponds directly to Noah's flood remains uncertain. The search for Noah's Ark therefore exists at the intersection of archaeology, history, geology, theology, and human curiosity. Each discipline asks different questions. Scientists seek measurable evidence. Historians analyze ancient documents. Theologians explore spiritual meaning. Explorers pursue physical discovery. Sometimes these perspectives complement one another. Sometimes they collide. Technology continues changing the search. High-resolution satellite imagery reveals landscapes previously impossible to examine. Ground-penetrating radar identifies hidden underground structures. LiDAR maps terrain beneath vegetation. Drone surveys access dangerous locations. Artificial intelligence analyzes geological formations for unusual patterns. Perhaps one day these tools will reveal something previous generations overlooked. Or perhaps they will confirm natural explanations for every suspected discovery. Either outcome would deepen our understanding. Interestingly, some researchers argue that searching only Mount Ararat may itself be a mistake. Remember, Genesis refers to the mountains of Ararat, not necessarily the modern volcanic peak. Ancient geography shifted over centuries. Place names evolved. Political boundaries changed. If the Ark existed historically, it could potentially rest somewhere else within the broader region. That possibility has inspired searches across neighboring mountain ranges. So far, none has produced universally accepted evidence. Throughout history, extraordinary claims have repeatedly emerged. Fragments of ancient wood, metal fittings, boat-shaped ridges, satellite anomalies, eyewitness testimonies. Every generation believes it may finally solve the mystery. Yet every generation also encounters unanswered questions. Perhaps that's why Noah's Ark occupies such a unique place in popular imagination. It represents more than an archaeological artifact. It symbolizes hope after catastrophe, survival against impossible odds, a new beginning after destruction. Whether interpreted literally or symbolically, the story continues speaking across cultures and centuries. Even those who doubt the Ark's historical existence often acknowledge the narrative's profound influence on literature, ethics, religion, and civilization. So where does the evidence stand today? There is currently no archaeological discovery accepted by the overwhelming majority of experts as Noah's Arkansas. No verified excavation has produced indisputable remains. No authenticated wooden vessel has emerged from Mount Ararat. No single piece of evidence has ended the debate. At the same time, the absence of conclusive evidence is not necessarily evidence of absence. History has repeatedly surprised us. Entire civilizations once considered mythical, such as Troy, were eventually rediscovered. Ancient cities have emerged from beneath deserts, jungles, and oceans after centuries of skepticism. Archaeology often advances through patience rather than certainty. The search therefore continues. Every melting glacier reveals previously hidden landscapes. Every technological breakthrough opens new possibilities. Every expedition adds another chapter to one of history's greatest mysteries. Perhaps the Ark will someday be found. Perhaps it has already disappeared forever. Or perhaps its greatest legacy isn't whether anyone discovers it at all. Maybe the real story is humanity's relentless desire to seek answers, to climb higher mountains, ask bigger questions, challenge assumptions, and explore the unknown. Because the search for Noah's Ark has never been only about finding an ancient ship. It's about understanding our past, testing our beliefs, following evidence wherever it leads, and recognizing that some mysteries endure not because people stop searching, but because every answer uncovers even deeper questions. Thousands of years after the flood story was first told, one question still echoes across snow-covered peaks, archaeological expeditions, scientific laboratories, and conversations around the world. Did a massive wooden ark once rest upon the mountains of Ararat? Or has the greatest voyage in history become humanity's greatest enduring mystery? Until undeniable evidence emerges, the answer remains suspended somewhere between faith and science, history and legend, discovery and doubt. And perhaps that is exactly why the search continues. If you'd like, I can also create matching 80 cinematic AI image prompts, a viral YouTube SEO package, description, tags, hashtags, and a high CTR thumbnail concept for this documentary.